We were out pretty late last night. We had a wedding, family wedding, out on the coast. So anyway, got to sleep in a little bit today. Had kind of a leisurely Sunday morning, which is nice. Summer is definitely waning. Fall feels like it's in the air. I have quite a to-do list for the day. Man, I've got to catch these squirrels. Check this out. Unbelievable. What the squirrels did to my decoration. Skunks can't do this. They don't get up this high. I know this is squirrels. So the squirrels have ruined this decoration, so I'll have to take that off and shred that, put it in the compost. Frustrating. Anyway, that's one more thing on the to-do list for today, but one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to get the four-wheeler and the pulp trailer ready and head out in the woods. I've got some firewood that I cut last fall. I've actually got some that has been down for a few years as well. So I want to get out and start cleaning that up. I'm going to hopefully spend an hour or two every once in a while out in the woods collecting all that firewood and cleaning it up and bringing it in. And right now it's pulp length, which is, I don't know what that means to people around the country, but here it's 4 feet. And I'm going to bring it in, buck it out to wood stove length, and then split it, stack it. So I'm hoping to be able to do that just a little bit at a time, get it split, stacked inside the woodshed so that I'm all done by the time the first snow hits. Ziggy, wanna go for a walk, bud? Oh, there you are. Wanna go out in the woods? So I took down this maple tree the first year we lived here, so 3 years ago, and I didn't have the right equipment to yard it all the way down, so it fell up against this big mama pine tree here, and it's been sitting here for a while, and I just haven't had the equipment or the time to come down and take it down. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is take this down. It's a little bit dangerous to do this. I recommend not pulling down a tree that's up against another tree without guidance and help from someone who knows what they're doing. I've been doing this for 20 years probably, cutting my own firewood, cutting wood for lumber, and I'm still definitely not 100% confident when it comes to stuff like this. It's really dangerous to pull down a tree that's got a lot of pressure up against another tree, because you never know exactly what it's going to do when that pressure releases. So, alright Ziggy, you're not going to like this. Ziggy doesn't care for the chainsaw very much. He'll probably run back to the house. Good boy. I know it's super loud. But we need to be warm this winter, right? You like the wood stove as much as I do. Right? Good boy. There it comes. You know what this means? Oh boy.
I have a good friend who is an urban farmer. His farm is amazing, and visiting his gardens always provides inspiration. But he lives on a half-acre lot in the center of a village. The only trees he has are the fruit and nut trees he's been grafting and cultivating over the years. That said, he still burns wood. Each year, he has several cord worth of tree-length logs delivered to his driveway. He then spends a couple weeks in the fall cutting them to wood stove length, stacking them, and getting ready for winter. Once, when I arrived for a visit, he was in the midst of his chore, and he was holding a short length of wood in his teeth while using his saw. He would set the stick on the log before each cut so he knew exactly where to make the next one, so his firewood was all the same length. I admire his attention to detail, but there's a much faster way. Many years ago, I measured the tip of the bar to a spot on the motor housing of the chainsaw. This spot happens to be in a conspicuous place on the saw. I think they might do that on purpose. It's 2 feet from there to the tip of the bar. To cut the wood into pulp length, all I need to do is put that part of the saw on the log, rev the engine slightly, and use the tip of the chain to scar the wood. Then I move the mark on my saw up to that scar and repeat. Where the second scar is represents 4 feet. That's where you cut. You can do the same thing for wood stove length. Most stoves take 16 to 18-inch logs, which happens to be the same length as most standard chainsaw bars. If you know your bar length, you have a built-in ruler.
That is exactly what I didn't want to happen. I was doing pretty well, and then I got going a little too fast and my chain got pinched up in this tree. So I'm going to try to get it out. The nice thing about living where I do and having the situation I have is that my father-in-law's chainsaw is only 3 miles up the road. So worst comes to worst, I can go get his chainsaw and cut mine out. I've done that a number of times. It's very frustrating. It's a huge waste of time to have to stop in the middle of the woods, get back on the four-wheeler or the tractor, get out, get in the car, go get that chainsaw, bring it back, come back in the woods, cut this one out. It's a huge waste of time. So hopefully I can just lift up on this and I'll get the saw out. So I'm just going to kind of explain what happened with the saw for those who don't know, who have never done this and are just starting out cutting your own firewood. This tree is on the ground down there and up against that big pine tree up in the air up there. So it's like this on the ground. The ground's here, the tree's up here. This tree, what are you doing? Get off me! Enough! Thank you. What a crazy dog. So this tree is basically pushing down with gravity, pulling it down on the ground, and there's a lot of pressure from the pine tree keeping it up in the air. So basically what happens is anywhere where I've cut here, the 2 pieces that I've split apart are pushing against each other like this because the tree is pushing down. So these 2 cuts here are pushing against each other, and what happens is when you get down far enough, the weight and the pressure overcomes this tensile strength. So essentially they slowly come together like this and they'll pinch your saw in between the 2 cuts. So what you have to do is cut down very slowly and pay attention to that, and as soon as you see it start to come together, you stop and pull the saw out. You want to make sure you get down to that point where they start to come together, and you also want to make sure that your cut is level, that it's not like this, because then you've still got a lot of pressure on one side. So you cut down level until they start to come together, and then you pull the saw out. Then you come in from underneath and cut up into your kerf, which is this cut here. And then when the log comes together, there's space in between here that it can collapse. And hopefully you've gone down enough so that by the time your saw blade comes up to this kerf, you're all the way through and it just comes down to the ground. And that's where it's kind of dangerous, because this one, I'm only 2 feet off the ground here. This piece is just going to fall. This piece is going to fall, but I don't know what's going to happen up there with all that pressure. So that's why I said it's kind of dangerous when you're pulling out a tree that's leaning up against something. It becomes more dangerous the higher up the tree is caught. And there's actually a term for trees like that. They're called widow makers, and you can kind of imagine why that name came about.